The mattress had a huge blood stain on it, and they give you these thin 2 sheets, so you're basically laying on bars.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're breaking down the prisoner exchanges that, for better or worse, made global headlines.
All right, you accept?
Yes, all right.
Biggest prisoner exchange since the Cold War.
It says a lot about the United States that we work relentlessly to free Americans who are unjustly held around the world. It also says a lot about us that this deal includes the release of Russian political prisoners.
Described as the largest prisoner exchange since the Cold War's conclusion, this widely publicized trade most prominently freed journalist Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan. The two Americans had received 16-year sentences from the Russian government on trumped-up espionage charges. Gershkovich, a reporter for the Wall Street Journal, had moved to Russia in 2016 and was detained by the Russian Federal Security Service in March 2023. This was the first time such a charge had been laid since the Cold War. Altogether, 26 individuals were released.
President Biden welcomed their release and said their brutal ordeal is over.
Outrage persisted over Gershkovich's arrest in particular, with the NGO Reporters Without Borders calling it, quote, outrageous, and that he, quote, should have never spent a single day in a Russian prison.
It feels all wrong to be trading people who are entirely innocent for, a convicted criminal, an assassin.
The U.S. Tehran Swap.
I spoke to them after they landed in Doha. I can tell you that it was, for them, for me, an emotional conversation.
Not only did the United States recover 5 political prisoners from Iran, they parted ways with over $6 billion. As reported by the BBC, the money, quote, revenue from Iranian oil sales, had been available to Tehran for bilateral and non-sanctioned aid, but was not spent for various reasons, including difficulties of currency conversion.
The money was Iran's money. I mean, in terms of deals, this one, frankly, was very ingenious.
The decision to wire the money was met with widespread criticism by Republican lawmakers, calling it, quote, a ransom payment and sanctions relief. With that said, the swap was ultimately characterized as a win for the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden, especially prior to the then upcoming 2024 presidential election, which Biden would eventually drop out of.
It was Iranian money frozen in South Korea, Iranian oil revenues from oil they legally exported to South Korea under the Trump administration.
Alan Gross for Cuban Spies.
Today is the first day of Hanukkah, and I guess so far it's the best Hanukkah that I'll be celebrating for a long time.
Gross, an employee of DAI Global, itself contracted by the United States Agency for International Development, was arrested in Cuba in 2009. Gross was part of a controversial U.S. government initiative to supply the Cuban people with advanced communications technology in order to circumvent their government's so-called information blockade. The contractor was charged with, quote, acts against the independence and territorial integrity of the state, potentially facing up to 20 years in prison. Gross was released in 2014 as part of the Cuban thaw, which involved a brief de-escalation of Cuba-U.S. political tensions in exchange for 3 Cuban spies. Carl and Hannah Kircher for Nathan Sharansky. Who knew that being an undercover spy meant having serious amounts of, well, let's call it undercover fun? Carl Kircher passed himself off as a security consultant to New York City's Columbia University in the early 1980s. However, Kircher and his wife Hannah were in reality Czechoslovakian spies, handpicked by the KGB to infiltrate the CIA. Carl is best remembered, however, for the unusual method by which he procured this top-secret intelligence, going to sex parties. Kircher's logic was that, as it was forbidden for government officials to attend events such as this, blackmail would be no great effort. The Kirchers were exchanged for Nathan Sharansky, born Anatoly Sharansky, who had been convicted of high treason for assisting Soviet dissidents. Nicholas Danilov for Gennady Zakharov.
Well, I was treated in prison perfectly decently. I think the American embassy was afraid that poison would be used against me.
This may take the record for the fastest organized prisoner exchange on our list, taking place over the course of a few extremely tense weeks in September 1986. Danilov, an American journalist and Moscow correspondent for the U.S. News and World Report, was apprehended there on espionage charges, the reasons for which were murky and unclear. The administration of then U.S. President Ronald Reagan concluded that Danilov's arrest was in response to the apprehension of Gennady Zakharov.
Because I spoke Russian, I was able to chit-chat with my captors, and sometimes they were quite pleasant.
Zakharov was a Soviet physicist who had been arrested for trading U.S. military secrets in an FBI sting operation. After just over 2 weeks, both men were released to their respective home countries on September 23rd.
Well, I think the thing that troubles you at first, and maybe even longer than at first, is, have I been forgotten?
Biggest agent swap. As mentioned earlier, the 2024 U.S.-Russia prisoner exchange that freed Evan Gershkovich was the largest of its kind since this incident, which most prominently featured Polish intelligence officer Marian Zacharski. The swap occurred in June 1985. Zacharski was among 4 East Bloc spies traded for, as the LA Times reported then, quote, 25 prisoners from East German and Polish jails in one of the biggest prisoner exchanges since World War II. Zacharski, the most high-profile individual traded, had paid over $100,000 for, quote, vital U.S. radar secrets. So important was the swap to U.S. officials that President Reagan himself intervened to commute Zacharski's sentence as a means of enabling the exchange. Trevor Reed for Konstantin Yaroshenko.
The psychiatric treatment facility, I was in there with 7 other prisoners in a cell. They all had severe, serious psychological health issues.
A U.S. Marine Corps veteran, Reed was arrested in 2019 following an episode of public intoxication and belligerence that quickly snowballed. Incapable of safely making it home after a party, Reed's girlfriend and friends decided to call police so that Reed could sweat it out in a drunk tank.
There's blood all over the walls there, where prisoners had killed themselves or killed other prisoners or attempted to do that.
Upon returning to collect him, his girlfriend discovered that Reed had been badly beaten and inexplicably charged with violence against Russian authorities. The corpsman was sentenced to 9 years in prison. That sentence was overturned following a 1-to-1 exchange for Konstantin Yaroshenko, a Russian pilot who had been arrested on charges of, quote, conspiring to smuggle more than $100 million worth of cocaine into the U.S.
I kind of viewed their having hope as being a weakness. I did not want to have that hope of, like, me, being released somehow.
Rudolf Abel for Francis Gary Powers.
If you are firm in your resolve not to cooperate with the U.S. government...
I am.
Yeah. Then do not talk to anybody else about your case, inside of government or out.
This prisoner exchange garnered renewed attention in 2015 upon the release of Steven Spielberg's historical drama Bridge of Spies, which starred Tom Hanks alongside an Oscar-winning Mark Rylance as Abel. A British-born KGB spy, Abel, born William August Fisher, was assigned to a spy ring based in New York City. In a story so twisty it seems like a Hollywood fabrication, Abel was convicted following the hollow nickel case. A nickel containing a coded message was intercepted, leading to his arrest.
Missed music.
They checked the radio to make sure there was no transmitter in it.
I'm sure they did.
Abel was swapped for an American pilot, Francis Gary Powers, who had been shot down over the Soviet Union in a botched covert CIA operation. Abel served 4 years of his sentence before the exchange, narrowly dodging a potential 30-year sentence.
All right.
All right. You accept?
Yes, all right.
Illegals program.
I would like that we learn to be more positive. How much effort is spent to make Russia a great power? How many people fight for the power, glory, and money? But will all of this make us happier?
We're surprised this exchange hasn't been adapted by Hollywood into a movie yet. It has Bridge of Spies potential written all over it. In 2010, 10 Russian sleeper agents were arrested on U.S. soil. The FBI operation to apprehend them was years in the making and was codenamed Operation Ghost Stories. Hired by the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, those arrested were accused of, quote, carrying out long-term deep cover assignments in the United States on behalf of the Russian Federation. In exchange, Russia released a number of individuals that had been convicted on espionage charges. Operation Ghost Stories? There's the title right there.
What you're seeing in these videos is absolutely state-of-the-art combined with traditional intelligence operative techniques.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Brittney Griner for Viktor Bout.
I would say, have you ever forgot your keys in your car, left your car running? Have you ever, where's my glasses? They're on top of your head. Where's my phone? Oh, it's in my pocket.
Perhaps the most widely publicized prisoner exchange in modern history involved Brittney Griner, a highly decorated professional basketball player in the WNBA, a two-time Olympic medalist, and a six-time WNBA All-Star. Drafted by the Phoenix Mercury in 2013, Griner played for UMMC Ekaterinburg, a Russian team, during the offseason. In February 2022, while returning to the U.S., she was detained in Russia after hash oil, which she used for medical purposes, was discovered in her possession.
I don't think I really gotten through all the way. At the end of the day, it's my fault, and I let everybody down.
Cannabis is illegal in Russia, leading to speculation that Griner was being used as a high-profile pawn, leverage for Russia to gain concessions from the United States. After months in a Russian prison, Griner was released in December 2022 in a prisoner swap for arms dealer Viktor Bout.
The mattress had a huge blood stain on it, and they give you these thin 2 sheets, so you're basically laying on bars.
Which prisoner exchange shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments.
It's good to be home. Thank you, and I wish you all a happy holiday season.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.